no one will know you as best as you know yourself. So you really need to spend time making sure that you, and part of knowing yourself is knowing the things that you actually possess, knowing the passions that are inside of you, the things that matter to you. Why does it matter? And if it really matters, are you ready to take action? Right. And then you start looking like me, I speak specifically as a person of faith because that's huge for me. I pray all the time. I'm asking God for wisdom, discernment, guidance constantly. And I know I have to do my part. I have to act. You can't just pray and just think God's going to just pop up. He needs you to show your faith by you doing something and stepping out when you don't have all the resources, but you feel that it's right and you're trusting He's going to be with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Walt Gaynor II, and I'm the host of BossLocks, where we are redefining professionalism and proving that natural hair and professionalism do coexist. Now, today I have the honor of having a special guest with me. We have Kenny Henry, aka the King Connector. So, Kenny, how you doing?
Doing awesome, brother. Thanks for having me, man. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. Happy Friday. Yeah, and I'm really excited to have you on. I already told you before, but I really appreciate all the support since we just started like from the beginning. So I really appreciate you just kind of consistency, and I love everything you're doing with your platform. And for those who don't know, Kenny is a life coach, sociologist, and he spends his day basically empowering people to connect the dots in their life, to connect their personal to business goals. And he's also a really cool entertainer. I mean, he has a lot in the works that I won't mention yet because I don't think it's been released yet. But he uses his platform to spread joy, but also brings a lot of real issues to light. And he just one of those type of people who, while he is still kind of in the spotlight, there's a lot of work behind the scenes. So, Kenny, I have a lot of questions to ask you, but I always like to start off by knowing what are the three things that most people don't know about you?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's see. I'm pretty transparent here. Gosh, well, I think well, I can't even say that because there's so many people that know. Honestly, that's a very difficult one for me. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, open. But I think that the thing for me is that it's compartmentalized where there's people like there's some people have absolutely no clue that I songwrite and sing, and do music, and no clue, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that do know that, right? Then there's a lot of people that don't know that I'm involved, in the anti-human trafficking movement. But then there's a lot of people that do know that. So when I think about my life, and I'm very, very vocal about being a Southern boy, born and reared in Louisiana. For definitely, I love that. I'm proud of that. Yeah, I really honestly can't think of anything. I mean, in my hobbies, I love languages. Like I said, I love the music. I love dancing. And again, there's a big group that know I love dance, especially salsa dancing. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, I'm not doing that, but I love that. I've been doing that for years. And but I think, okay, one thing majority of people don't know is that I actually was in a group, a salsa dance group at one point in my life where we went around and traveled and performed for different events and things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I know when I was in college, there was this. Well, my college was like in the middle of nowhere, so anytime we wanted to do something, we really had to like travel. But there was this Blacksburg, which is like 60 minutes away from us. They had this like salsa night on. I think it was like Tuesdays. So we would like drive after school, like 60 minutes just to go salsa, do the thing, and then come back afterwards.
Mm,
One, I'm not good at it, but if you ever need a backup, I could do the basic moves in the background or something like that.
I love it.
Man, what got you into salsa dancing?
It's interesting. So in Louisiana, so in our culture, the Creole culture, we have Zydeco dancing. So Zydeco dancing is a partnership dancing, and it's very up tempo and it's partnered,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's literally washboards, your drums, guitars, all that. And so I was already kind of used to that dancing. And then when I got to college, I befriended two girls from Texas, and one was black girl, one was a I don't know if she's from Mexico, but she's Latina, and so they were best friends, and they knew the salsa world. And I remember there was a song out, and I believe it was by Eve. I can't think of what that song was, but it had like an element of salsa feel in it. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I started watching them, and that song came on. We were at this club everyone went to near the university, and they got on the floor and just started doing that. And I'm like, man, what is that? And I fell in love with it. So they started showing me, and then I ended up, as I continued to travel, when I traveled, but like, through navigate through college, another good friend of mine started dating a Dominican guy, and his family would go to this hotel every Sunday night. It was a Hilton, no, a Marriott, and they had a big salsa night. That was uncommon at the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, and I'm like, wow, it's this huge world of all these people coming together doing it. And so I started really learning there. And from that point on, man, I never stopped. And when I got to LA after graduating college, I went to college again there. And of course, it was all over the place. So, I mean, right away, I connected. I did different groups that we just started going to all these clubs. And yeah, yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the salsa club. It's just like fun, and just the hours kind of go by. It's just like its own
Good
type of
environment.
feel.
Yeah, it's community. It's and it's and our Zydeco dances are very very similar to that. It resonates with me because it's all about community. So it's all the people there, and you can dance with anyone. People dance with other people's girl, wives, husband. And it's no drama. It's community. It's fun.
Mm,
It's respectful.
that's cool. Exotico dance. I pronounced it right. Exotico?
Zydeco. Yeah.
Zydeco.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Zydeco. Yeah, look it up on YouTube. You'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna practice some moves, and I'm gonna look for come to your hometown and do it. That's cool. So, Uncle Dan, and you said you're from Louisiana. Can you tell us a little bit about your hometown?
Yeah, Lake Charles is a phenomenal little hometown. It's called Lake Charles, and it is sits on a lake. Definitely, and of course, it's in Louisiana, so it's below sea level. So,
All right.
but the culture, it's just great, man. It's a very, it's always been a very safe, city, very cultured, very rich history, and it still is part of the Creole region. Because you
Mm,
have there, then you have Lafayette about 45 minutes away, and then all the little cities in between, and then all the way up to New Orleans. But it's just such a rich culture, and just growing up there, especially like I tell folks in the time that I did as a black man, it was a blessing because, at that point, you have so many people that because the South was oppressed so long as they also advanced the fastest for blacks because of civil rights and all that, which is where you have most of your historical black universities are there. So by the time I came up, I mean, I already had people's grandpas, dads, moms, aunts. I have people in my family that were attorneys, law enforcement, judges. I
oh,
mean,
really?
nurses, doctors. My family doctor was always black. I mean, that's the world I knew. I didn't know any other world. So for me, it was like, okay, so I was never questioning my mind that whatever I wanted to do, I could do because I saw all these representations of me in so many different sectors, right? And so, yeah, and then I didn't realize until becoming an adult when you travel out, especially when I went to LA, I was like, whoa, okay, their story is different. I get it, and at first it was tough, but then I started realizing, yeah, they're growing up, they're not seeing all of this. And even to graduate high school, and all my schools, mind you, all my elementary, junior high, and high school, all black schools, and all not just black schools, black magnet schools. And
Mm,
so education was always like it was cool.
right.
Smart. It was cool to be, to have a high GPA at the end of the year. It's like whether you played sports, the band, whatever it was. Um, and I just think we didn't realize what we had. And it was also mandatory to take African American history and literature in order to graduate. You couldn't just do American history. And that's another thing that, again, naive, I
Oh,
thought everybody was getting all over the world until I could get out, I become an adult and realize, no, unless they choose to go to college and study that, no, they're not getting. And I think, wow, then that's something that must change because in America, we are a melting pot. And I know what that did for me. And it's like, I couldn't imagine not having that now. You know what I mean? Um,
mm-hmm.
things and kind of just fast forward. I spent time in DC for a thing. I had to do a presentation for the federal government on human trafficking because I'm actually one of the original 12 members of the first Human Trafficking Leadership Academy. And we happened to be there the same weekend that they were celebrating their anniversary, the year anniversary of the African American Museum, History Museum. And we got
That's
in
pretty cool.
with
Oh,
no
you got it.
we
Nice.
got in, and when I tell you, it was just because of God, because I mean, they were booked till the next year. But a
Mm.
friend of mine that was part of my cohort, she went, stood out there, and she was there the first person in the morning. Like it was, I don't even know if the sun was out. And at 8 o'clock, she calls, "Hey, the guy, I built a friendship with one of the guys who work here, and he said he'll let us in. He loves our story, what we're here to do. If it's just us three, if you can make it here." I said, "I'm there." I jumped up, got a lift and went straight there. But in there, I realized, and she's, a black girl from Oakland, California, as we're going through this tour, and it's very impressive, shall I say. This thing, if you've never gone, you need to go. It's the most beautiful museum I've ever seen laid my eyes on, I've ever, just experienced. It's gorgeous, and they did it so wonderfully, and it was so well thought out. But and as you're going through and seeing the different stories, there was so much. And she's a smart girl, but there was so much she didn't know, she didn't understand. And so I found myself on this tour kind of explaining history, to her. And these are things that I learned at, like, honestly 16, 17 years old, because I had to take African American history and literature. And that opened my mind up to go after real history, all that time. And so
Hmm.
now imagine her as a woman, a grown woman, now just learning this stuff. And she broke down a lot of, cried in this thing. And so we have such a, that's where I come from. And that's why I love, I'm so grateful. Was it perfect? No. Was there, there was a lot of resources we didn't have. But at the same time, when I think about those important, rich things we had, I'm grateful, man. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, blessing. A blessing. I have never heard of that. A school like was this high school or middle school?
High school.
A high school requiring students to learn African American
Yeah.
history.
And
That's really
history and literature, you have to take both.
both of them.
Mhm.
Wow, that is very. And you said that was an all black magnet school.
Yeah.
Got you.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Yeah, that really is a blessing because now, like for I know for me, that's well, one I didn't. Actually, here's a question for you. During that time, you growing around just a lot of black people who are doctors, lawyers, and all these jobs that you don't usually see people have. When you were studying African American history, was it something that was kind of exciting and shocking to you, or it was just like you were just taking another class?
No, it was very exciting, and I saw it very exciting for pretty much all of us, because
Mm.
it was something that we related to, and it told history from another side. Because you have to realize, at the same time, we were still taking American history, so we were seeing there were some discrepancies going on, and it was like, in American history, it was always put to favor, Caucasians. Let's just be 100% right, right? Yes, it touched on slavery, but it never went into details and things of that nature. And it definitely didn't highlight a lot of, showing a lot of Black resiliency and things to be proud of as slaves. It shows slaves as strictly, victims and helpless and hopeless and all that, right? Until Abraham Lincoln, a white man, decided to free them now and give them opportunity. So we were very excited, and I remember seeing people excited that, to be honest with you, they weren't excited about almost any of their classes. But in that class, they were very excited, and they loved to talk about that. And then, our teachers would give us opportunity, to allow yourself to go there in your mind and think about the things that were going on at the time. What would your mental state be? What would your emotional state be? Do you think you would have conformed? All right, think about being not the slave that were brought from and kidnapped there. How about the slave that was born into it? So when you came,
Hmm.
that's all you knew. So it was normal for you, right? Which changes your mentality. So we got a chance to go really, really deep and really and get a connection, have a connection to our ancestors there. And yeah, there was a lot of it evoked emotion. That we were angry sometimes. Sometimes we were, very just disheartened. We were, and then we were very hopeful at the same time. Like, oh man, that turn, I would have been a part of that revolt. Man, yeah, we just took them out. This would have been our plan here. And it's like, okay, hold on. We'll give time, but there was the excitement, but the beautiful thing is there was not of what you see when you don't have that. There wasn't this big gap of generations. Like, even though it was here, we were in this 20th century, we were still able to connect with our ancestors back there, and there was a energy and a spirit of pride that we had, also for
Hmm.
enduring that stuff and going through that for us. And then we were sad for them at the same time. Yeah.
Right, man. You brought up a lot of good points there. I think one, people really do not teach the resiliency part of it. The way I know, just 'cause I grew up in Charleston, oftentimes the outcome when people learn about slavery is that people were better off as slaves compared to afterwards during that period of segregation and well up until like the Civil Rights Act. A lot of people basically have the understanding like, oh yeah, they didn't know how to do anything, they were helpless, they couldn't do
Mm,
anything. But in all reality, there are so many.
yeah,
I mean, just from the resilience, there's so much like creativity that comes from there as well, and
absolutely.
inventions, all
Yeah.
sorts of things.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and this is what I'm saying. So we, like they built things. They weren't just there. They built things, and most of the things that we were saying, they were the ones building that, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of these skills were passed down that they had of arithmetic and all these different things that came down. A lot of inventions were happening at that time. They got absolutely no credit for. That was taken because they were like, well, let's find a better way. They were trying to, in a lot of cases, trying to please the slave master, but also they were trying to make it easier on themselves by inventing certain things that would help them or whatever. But of course, they get no credit for that. So, like one of the things I forgot now talking to you. Okay, this is something that a lot of people don't know that I do is because we just kicked it off. But me and a good friend, Dr. Nisa McNeil, she is an educator and activist, and she helped with schools that have created schools in Ghana, like South Africa, Haiti, a lot of different places, and she is huge on that. But we got to talking because she has a radio show on the More radio show based out of LA, and she asked me in April to be her co-host for 3 days to talk about, child sex abuse and that kind of thing. And so I did that, and then that last meeting we started speaking about stories of Black folk. Our stories. That how we are original or we are storytellers. That's our as a people from Africa. That's who we are. That's how we educate, and I've always done that. And then how that was brought over. And so she, like me, and grew up the same way around grandparents, extended family, a lot of the elders, and she grew up in Alabama. So we got a lot of the same stuff. Both grew up in that Baptist church, and so we got a lot of the same stuff as we got to talking, and our stories were so parallel. So we both was like, yeah, man, that's what's missing today is the storytelling,
Mm.
and why we have such a disconnect with the young generation and the old. And it's because we have stopped being committed to storytelling, right? And we've stopped evolving our storytelling to where it's relevant to them and it's exciting to them. I remember sitting at the feet, like, man, I wanted to know the rest of the story. Well, what happened here, and then what happened there?
Right.
Because when you're young, that's when that imagination is so wide and open. So what we decided to do, long story short, is start a radio show on Sat. So we do it every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and it's called The Stories of Black Folk, and we tell different stories. So the first show actually kicked off on Juneteenth. We decided to do it
Oh,
Juneteenth
nice.
because it was symbolic, and it just so happened I was here in Texas at the time, so it was awesome. But we basically that's what we do is we tell stories. And so last Saturday she read our slave narrative, and then after that, she read one that was a little bit more closer to today. And then I came on top of that and did Madam C.J. Walker's story, and then I did Tyler Perry's story. So we kind of go through the times to make it relevant to everyone. But these stories of like hope and what was going on, what these people built, this great. It's not it's showing resiliency, but it's also showing what they're able to do in spite of being oppressed, in spite of the climate at the time, right? And so, and now look at where we're at now with Tyler Perry, who has the biggest studio in the entire America, probably world, and on a Confederate place, a place that wanted to keep slaves. This is where soldiers lived and fought that wanted to keep Black people enslaved, and now he owns that entire property as a Black man. You see what I'm saying? So it's just well,
Hmm.
that's our whole goal is to create stories to give the generation hope and to show not only look what you come from, look the stock you're made of, but imagine what you could do, and all through storytelling.
That's so true. That is so true. That's very important too. Like, I mean, just like you said with Tyler Perry, like not only does he have that studio that is, I think, yeah, it is bigger than all the other studios in America, at least. But it's also a studio that a lot of people are using. Like, I think a lot of people don't know that the Democratic
Hmm.
the debates were held, or
Right.
one of them were held at Tyler Perry
Yeah,
Studios.
I think it was.
M- Marvel's used it for I think two movies, at
Mhm.
least two movies. So it's not just that he has it and it's there and it's used for black films. It's used by everyone. So
And Kendrick was there. I think it was the Miss. I believe it's Miss. Either Miss Universe or Miss. But one of the one that just happened in December. It was there.
oh really? I didn't realize that.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Man, man, there's so many stories to tell. It's like it's like hard to choose which one.
Right. Right.
Um,
So
yeah.
I'm excited we're having this platform to tell stories because we get to every week, choose different stories. And I'm excited about the one that I'm doing on this Saturday. I don't want to give it away, but it's a female, and it's just there's so many levels to her story, man. And I think right now the climate is definitely needs to hear that. Definitely, I definitely need to. So I'm excited to share it.
That's nice.
No,
That's nice. When this is published, we'll make sure we plug the links in
absolutely.
so people can tune in. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, speaking of Tyler Perry, I think one thing that's cool that you're doing with your platform is kind of working with some of the actors from the show to kind of give recaps and everything, and
Right.
of the show The Oval, which is Tyler
Right.
Perry's. And I haven't seen it yet, and I honestly haven't really thought about it because I don't have BET. But after seeing like one of your recaps, I was like, okay, maybe I should check it out. I don't know. So, one, can you tell us a little about what The Oval is, a quick summary, and then how you kind of got involved with that?
Sure. Yeah. So Oval is one of Tyler Perry's new drama series that is on BET, which is another great thing that he partnered with BET and BT Plus to continue to put his stamp on it. But also, this is partnering. This is an alliance being built to further strengthen that platform, and so that's a really important, powerful piece there. But also, he did that one and Sisters. So Sisters, those are two dramas that came out the same time on last year and on BT. And the Oval, which is so great, came within I think the first 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, was
Mhm.
number one drama on cable TV, which was amazing.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And what shows, and he even came out and did an Instagram video just sharing, I guess, the day he heard about when he found out. And he just did like a really, just organic video, I think from right there in his home or maybe at the studio and just sharing his gratitude. But the Oval is just about the first family. The first family was about a president and his wife. The president's white, the wife is black, they have biracial children. And it's all these staff. There's, different races that work within the White House and all these different positions. And the cool thing about it is it's not about politics, but it's
Hmm.
about the lives of the people involved. So like, you're getting like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you have the press secretary, you have the Secret Service. What are they like when they go home? Oh yeah, they do have maids, and what's their life like? They work in the White House and dealing with all this stuff, and they're seeing these intimate parts of their lives, and when they go home, what are their lives like? And that's what is so cool about the way he chose to showcase this show. It's about the lives of the president and like the dysfunction of him and the first lady, and the president with his sex addiction and cheating, and then the children growing up in all this adversity, and so they're having each their own issues, but still have to look the part and smile and those kind of things. And it's about money, it's about power, it's about deceit, it's about resiliency, it's a lot of things going on in that series, man. But yeah, so I got involved because two of my dear friends are part of the cast, and so of course, the way we are, well, because we're all from the same city, and we're very loyal to each other in that way. And so my goal was like, okay, well, whatever I can do to kind of support or whatever, that's what I was going to do. And that means if that means turning people on to the show, whatever. But then one of my good friends that's part of the show actually talked to me. It's like, yeah, so are you going to do recaps, on your show? And I hadn't thought about that, to be honest, because I was just thinking
Mhm.
we interview inspirational folks, period. You know,
Right.
but now like whoa, and we thought about it, talked about it, and decided, yeah, let's do it. And so I started doing the recaps, and then that evolved because of COVID into these Instagram chats with each every Wednesday before the show comes on. I do a different interview with a different cast member from the show, And and all it is just asking him, like basically, even what is it like to work with Tyler Perry? How do you resonate with the character that you're playing, or don't resonate with them? How did life prepare you for this? Those kind of things. And I try. My main goal for that is that people will, when they look at them now after they have experienced them on this IG chat, that now when they see them on anything, whether it's the Oval or any other project they're working on, a movie. Like I know Logic, who plays Donald, he actually got cast and he plays Smokey Robinson in the Aretha Franklin. By,
Oh wow.
yes, and that's coming out in December on Christmas actually. And
Oh nice.
so, yeah, so it's like when people see him, I want them to have a more of a connection. Like, no, Kenny may play this evil dude, on the show, but he's really cool, man. He does a lot for the community, or he's a very fun guy, but he just plays his characters really well. He's evil as hell on the camera. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that kind of thing, and it's organic and fun. And so the show ends this Wednesday night, coming up the 22nd, and they're going to do a 2-hour finale, and so that ends the season one. And I have 2 interviews committed. I'm trying to get another one as well, so we can have 3 to start with a bang. And then they're going to start filming, I think, within a week or two for season 2. So I love it,
Oh wow.
and I love what Tyler does as a whole. He gives a lot of actors that don't have big names yet, but they've been working, and they've been working, and you follow them. Most of them have been working for a long time. They've been part of all kind of different productions, from stage to TV to you name it. And he gives them opportunity to shine and show what they're made of, and I love that.
Hmm. He does. He does. And Tyler Perry is so interesting because I know just for like such a long time, I think a lot of people, and myself included, were kind of turned off. But I think it's more so like that was like the only representation we had. And it wasn't even that, it was just how other people saw it.
Uh-huh.
And it just kind of caused us to feel a type of way. But now when you have all these um, different forms and types of representation all over the place, different types of the culture, different people, it's kind of I know for me, I've been able to kind of look back at Tyler Perry's work throughout the years and just be like, wow, okay, that really is kind of amazing. I get to look at it in a new light. And kind of like you said, like he really does put people on a really cool career path. Like there's so many people I think we don't even realize who kind of started off in a Tyler Perry play or a
Right.
TV show or movie. It's really
Absolutely.
cool.
It's interesting. I was told you I was getting my dreads tightened up and retouched. Thank
Yeah, they look nice, by the way.
you. And I was my good friend daughter. She was doing my hair, and she's a college student here over in Texas. And so we're watching. I think it was How to Get Away with Murder, and
Hmm.
there was. Is it the same? Was it the same show? I think there was. Yeah, I know for sure there's a guy on there, but there may have been 2 people on there, but for sure this guy. And I was like, he just looked familiar, and then it hit me. I was like, oh, he was on the Tyler Perry movie at such and such, and she was like, wait, what, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And yeah, it was How to Get Away with Murder because Viola Davis. I was like, yeah, I said she was on Tyler Perry's movie as the street preacher who was trying to save the prostitutes, and I think that was Medea Goes to Jail with Keisha McKnight. That was,
Oh, yeah.
and she's like, "Oh my God, you serious?" I said, "I didn't even know that." And I'm like, "Yeah." And now you. And so a lot of people don't realize how he will continue to use his platform when he finds what he sees as great talent and great potential. He will put people do his part with his platform to get them, out there. And so, that's what I love. And I think even with the Medea character, I knew people had issues, and I'm like, well, I don't see the issue. I'm like, because it's true. He's being raw. He's showing a form of the culture, right? Like this is his life. This is his story. Everybody's stories matter, and he's
Hmm.
in people from his life, grandma, mom, and aunt, and put them all into this one person, Medea. And that was his experience. So we can't say that's his culture. But also, he challenged people with that because, you have to, if you're educated, and just you don't have to have a college degrees, but just have any kind of common sense. You're gonna know if you live for some time. There's cultures within cultures. So does Medea represent all Black women? Absolutely not. If you are a culture, you would know there's so many different types within, right? It's as in every other race. But he challenged that, and so when people would have an issue, I'm like, oh, what's the issue, right? Because it was obvious that a lot of people resonated with it because that was how Medea is how he was able to build that empire to now do everything he's doing and bless people. And this is why I say, even if we don't resonate with something, because I don't resonate with everything, but at the same time, I go objectively and I'm like, okay, let's think of the things. How can this benefit, or how is it benefiting in other ways? And I may not even understand it, to be honest with you. But I do know if they feel genuine about this and it's their experience, I need to honor that. I don't have to agree or whatever, but I got to honor that because this is this person's experience. And if they're not trying to hurt anybody, then you got me. You got my support. If you're trying to uplift and help in any way, you got mine. Go ahead. I don't know if I can help in this way, but because I don't get it, but whatever I can do, like please, And I think that's the kind of mindset. I think that's what he's showing people. He's definitely showing people that, and now people are starting to like, wow, okay, we get it, and they're seeing, okay, now he has the resources and things to show everything else that's in here, where he didn't have that opportunity before. And that's what made him go to Atlanta. If you listen, he talks about that and started because he's like, Hollywood never got me. They didn't understand.
Hmm.
And they didn't get what I was trying to do. And so, I know it's there, and the approved is there, and I'm gonna do more. And that was always his mindset. I'm gonna do more. And everybody who works with that man is like, I mean, they all just talk about how much family. He's all about family, and he's able to do that with so many people. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It speaks a lot about him. So we have a lot of great people out there like
You
that
do.
in the culture that's just really making a difference in a powerful way.
Yeah. What you were saying and just talk about the Tyler Perry story actually reminds me of Jay-Z because remember there, I forgot what song it was, but in one song he was like truthfully, I want to rap like Common Sense, but he made like 5 mil having rap like Common Sense.
Right,
And he also says farther down the line that basically his goal is to like he is going after this body right now, but that's because he's going to build something that's going to do something a little bigger
right.
later on. And some people I'm looking forward to kind of 10 years down the road so we could finally see what Jay-Z was doing like right now. Because I know there's a lot of things that we often don't see, but it's
Yeah,
really that those kind of what you mentioned before, different types of resilience. Sometimes it's just to stay true to what you believe in, even if it's your own culture who's saying no,
right.
no.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. You have to. You have to. You got to take. It's inside you for a reason. And trust me, the right people are going to get it. It's never the wrong thing for the right people. And
True,
you have to look at it.
true. Man. Now, kind of hearing you speak, I think it's really interesting all the different things that you're a part of, and it seems to kind of fit in. I don't know exactly how it all connects, but I think it's really interesting, and it seems as though you're able to do things that kind of matter to you and be in groups, meetings, and interviewing people with stories
Yeah.
that kind of connect to hope, like your radio show, the work you're doing with the sex trafficking. There's all these different things. You're like, it's almost like you have like a really cool agent who's like picking these really nice projects for you.
Yeah. I'm the agent. Well, I'll say God's my agent. That's what my head agent is.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth.
Great.
That's
That's
the
the
truth.
truth.
So I wonder because I feel like a lot of people sometimes can have this issue come up. I know I do sometimes, but like, how do you know when to say yes to certain things versus when to say no?
I think that's a very good question, and that's what with my life coaching. I have, and I think it's very imperative for everyone to be this way. No one will know you as best as you know yourself. So you really need to spend time making sure that and part of knowing yourself is knowing the things that you actually possess, knowing the passions that are inside of you, the things that matter to you. Why does it matter? And if it really matters, are you ready to take action? Right. And then you start looking like me, I speak specifically as a person of faith because that's huge for me. I pray all the time. I'm asking God for wisdom, discernment, guidance constantly. And I know I have to do my part. I have to act. You can't just pray and just think God's going to just pop up. He needs you to show your faith by you doing something and stepping out when you don't have all the resources, but you feel that it's right and you're trusting He's going to be with you. You have to, like, He's going to let you know, right? He conspires that universe to work in your favor and he lets you know. And you can't get excited about every little thing that seems like an opportunity. You have to really know, does this make sense right now? Okay. And maybe it makes sense, but is it the right timing? Okay. Right now I have this. Like, take it always back to being responsible. What is the right thing to do? What is the priority right here? And it doesn't mean, and trust me, if it's for you, then it'll be there when it's time or whenever you go back to get it. Sometimes things are a test. So we can't just get excited about everything. Like, and I'm definitely that person when someone comes, I'm like, a lot of people are like, what? That'd be a great opportunity. I'm like, yeah, but have you, thought about I'm doing this, I have this and this and that, and then what's going to happen here? I cannot. This is important to me. Social injustice in this story. I'm not going to just give this up for this because it's so awesome, but it's temporary. So it's things like that you have to figure out how to manage yourself, and you have to know. And this whole thing with which I don't agree with, and I've said that multiple times on multiple platforms when they said, jack of all trades, master of none. I don't believe in that at all. What it is that in the way of we all have different gifts and things that we've been sent here with, right? And so with these gifts, what are you going to do? Just focus on one and just let the other ones just die? And no, I think that God has it's a reason He wants you to be able to use them all. But this is where wisdom is so important. Now, can I realistically use all of them at the same time, given the same energy and intensity? Absolutely not. I'm one person. But I can look at how he's conspiring the universe. And Kate, so what? Guess what? The songwriting for right now just needs to got put on hold as far as trying to book appointments going to the studio. And I need to focus right here. This is where he's opening up these doors. Because look how easy and peaceful he's making this right here. And we're making them
Mm.
right. And then I get a little downtime. Oh, maybe I can, I'm inspired. Let me write something. But that doesn't mean I'm putting all my focus here. I'm still just keeping it, going here. So the radio, so you're able to do it. And what do? I write about the stuff that I believe and live. So if I'm over here writing about, money, women and, those kind of things, well, that is not authentic to my life and who I am. So you'll never see me write about that stuff, right? If I write about that, it's a love song, right? And in that song, trust me, it's going to be about, if it was a rough time, it's about some healing at the same time, right? You see
Mhm.
the voice for, awareness and education for the anti-human trafficking, also having the mentorship program, but teaching all these things how to be empowered. And so you don't become a victim of human trafficking. So you don't get pulled into that life of being a trafficker yourself and those kind of things, right? The stories of Black folk is the same thing, empowering of a race of people, of being resilient, empowering them and things of that nature. So for me, that's it. I make everything work because it has to be authentic. You're never going to pull me out of my lane. And I've had opportunity different times in my life, even to sing with someone that was rapping about something I completely don't believe in. And I'd say, well, that's not going to work. Our brains are completely different. I mean, I think you're very talented, but our brains are very different. Well, no, but you can sing, you can write your own part. It's like, yeah, but no, because that when that song is one piece, right? And so people
Mhm.
are going to say, well, Kenny condones what he's rapping about because he's singing on there, right? So good for you. What's good for you because you get that audience and you get an audience. Oh, he's not that bad of a guy. But for me, I said so. No, it's contradicting. It's hypocritical, and and none of us are perfect. Number one, by far. And I'm not trying to say that at all. However, you have to do your best to try to stay as authentic as you can, and to not be a hypocrite in that way. And so yeah, that's you just make it all work, man. And you just go with the universe and where is it taking you right now, and that's it.
Hmm. Interesting. So kind of it's interesting. I like your you presenting that other side of it because I think we always hear the jack of all trades, master of none. And I think you're right. I guess there are a lot of opportunities presented to people that come in different forms, but they'll kind of take you in different journeys. So it's kind of interesting. And so, are you kind of saying that we should not necessarily focus on like, oh, we're kind of doing too much or staying in one lane, but more so just like what's kind of important to you and just following the path wherever it takes you? Or...
Absolutely, absolutely. Think about it. I got my first degree in broadcast journalism and sociology, right? And then I moved 5 months later to California to go to fashion business school.
Oh, wow.
As soon as I finished, what did I do? I started working in fashion, and that's what I went there for. Manufacturing office. I worked in buying offices, and those kind of things. And then after a while, I said, you know what? I want to break from this because I started feeling it. Although I was making good money, I felt not at peace. Something was off. Something was, and I couldn't put my hand on it. I prayed. I prayed. I was, I felt like I was balancing life. But what I realized is I needed to be helping folks, helping people, in the people business. And so I ended up taking a major pay cut and going completely opposite. And I went to foster homes,
Oh
managing
wow.
foster homes where, abused and neglected kids live, and managing, staff and growing in that. And then I went from there to working with, because I was like, man, after being there for 3 years, I realized if we can get the parents healed and healthy, because no matter what these kids went through, they still long to be with their parents, and rightfully so. Then to be living in a home with, 5, 6 other, boys, staff coming in around the clock, morning, noon, night, different people, therapists, psychiatrists, school, having meetings with IEP meetings with education, it's all these different folks, and they have to be this to every single person, and they have all these expectations, and you have a family out there somewhere that you could be with. So I left there, and I found out that there was such a program that exists that worked with the entire family unit, and to save either reunite the kids back with their family, or to, if there was a child in jeopardy of being taken away, then they would reach out to this entity to go in and work with that entire family to save that placement. And you work with the parents and the kids. So I went and I did that, and fell in love with that. And then that eventually led me to start my own nonprofit, right? And so it's interesting how, and while I was working before I started the nonprofit, I started it's like the universe was saying, you need that music back. You need that music. It's time. This is time to start the music now, because I hadn't even started the music yet. So I started writing. So I was literally working day 9 to 5, and most of the time 9 to 6, 7 o'clock, and I was in the studio till 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, barely getting sleep and going back to work to do my thing. But I was so happy. And people were like, how are you so happy every day? Because I was balanced, because my life wasn't just all this. Because although it's a noble thing what we were doing, helping these families, it's a very draining and emotional thing too, because you're dealing with some very dark issues sometimes, or having a child have to go back in the home with a person who violated them because they went through some classes, or there was abuse and all these things here. Like, you could easily take that home with you. So this was a connection for me, and I poured that into my songwriting and singing. And so you just kind of you kind of go where, and then that leads to opportunity, because then now somebody hear this song. Oh my God, we heard your song. The song here. We have this big event in Sacramento. We'd love to fly you down to be our entertainment for Friday night. Like, blah blah. And then here I am flying to Sacramento, going to entertain and speaking. Now having that platform to talk about these things, right? And somebody, oh, I want this lyric from your in my book. What would I have to do? Yeah. So you just kind of go where the universe you know, is taking. Once you learn how to navigate life like that, it becomes a little bit easier. I'll tell you that. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, I see what's happening. Okay, I know what I need to do. And sometimes it's scary, because it's like it definitely wasn't in the plan. I'm gonna have to re-strategize some things, but that's how you're able to make things work. It's in my experience, or what I find it.
Hmm. When you were at that point in your life, did you know real time that kind of you needed to be in the studio to have that balance?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I knew 100%. And at that point I was still, going. I would go out salsa dancing sometimes, so that was meeting my needs. But then it just got louder and louder. The voice of, you need to be writing. This is the time. You need to start writing. You need to get in the studio. And that was a process. I had to find what engineer, what producers I wanted to work with. I had to learn how to record in the actual studio. So that was a training ground for me. So I did. I finished that whole album, released album, had an album release party, all that stuff, and it was scary. You know what I mean? But I did it,
Right.
and it was great. And I learned so much, which helped me till today to be not even stronger singer, and but also writer. Deeper writer, and learning. I learned the business side so much. So all that matters. All that matters. And I'm still doing fashion. I have a online fashion store for women, regular plus size women, Lavish Avenue Apparel. So I still do, I'm still getting that business side of it, and being creative there. So, I just, like I said, if it works in that realm, when I meet someone, whatever seems to be relevant, I don't say, oh, I do this, I do that. I'm like, oh, so what? If I feel I'm even supposed to share what I do, then it's normally specific. And most of the time, that's all they know about me.
Mm.
This other stuff.
So
Because
how do you introduce yourself?
Yeah, it depends. I'm Ken Henry. That's who I am. And sometimes, and it depends on where I'm at, because sometimes I'm Kenny Henry. So if it's in the artistic realm or whatever, I'm Kenny Henry. And if it's in business, I'm Ken Henry. So it just really depends on where I'm at, and it's a need to know basis. And if someone's in my life long enough, they'll end up finding out more of the other things. But if we meet on business, then to me, it's whatever's relevant to that business. But that's what I share.
Hmm, interesting. I really love that your story, because it really just, I mean, it backs up kind of what you mentioned before about kind of letting life take you where you need it to be.
Right.
I think we're always taught you have to sell yourself, especially when you think about the whole job interview process. I think part of why it's intimidating is because you go in and the hiring manager expecting you to wow them. You have this pressure to really do the most and push and say, yes, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that, I do it all really well, I promise. Um, and I think what you were saying is really interesting, because like it's not even about you selling yourself. It's kind of like that consistency with what you're doing and some of that passion in there as
Absolutely.
well. It
Yeah,
kind of
be
opens door.
authentic to yourself. And you made me think of something quick yourself. Let's give you the worst interview I ever had in my life. That I
Oh yeah.
That's the worst interview I ever had. And this is right when I first moved to California from Louisiana, and I'm in fashion school. I left my car home because it happened quickly. Literally, when I made the decision, and just to be honest, to show you how I'm very authentic of how I move, I made the decision to decide to come to California to pursue the fashion school, and I was in within 5 days I flew here of making that decision. I had to
Wow.
readjust everything in my life and all these and things that I was going to pursue to do that. And so I'm like, okay, well, man, California is way more expensive than Louisiana and more expensive than I even anticipated. So I need to get a job here quickly. And so I'm like, well, I need to find something that's close. So I'm not going to say any names, but there was a place across that deal with electronics. They deal with, office supplies, all kind of things like that. And it's right there. I'm like, okay, perfect. So I go in there, and turns out a guy that I had just met that was part of the church I just got into, he worked at that one. And he says, yeah, come in my department. Well, after going visit, I was like, the only department I'd want to be in that would make some lucrative money is like the electronics department. I'm not the tech savvy guy. I know tech, don't get me wrong. And I'm like, that should not be the first place. But I'm like, if I'm going to be here and be authentic to myself, I would not want to work in any other department. So I told him, he said, well, they're not going to hire you for that. They only hire people who can like literally take computers apart and put them back together. I'm telling you, don't do it. Come over here because we're hiring. I said, okay, well, I'll think about it. Well, I said, I'm going for what I want. So I did this interview, and this was in the electronic department. And this guy is looking at my resume. And so then he asked me, I remember, he asked 3 questions. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly what the questions were, but they were all about, specific to a certain component of, either a computer part or a system, a hardware. And so he said, well, how much do you know about X? Right. I said, to be honest with you, I said, not much. And so he goes down and nobody said, okay, tell me how much you know about Z. I said, again, I said, not much. And so he says, so he goes and he just stares at me. What about how much do you know about, A? I said, this is going to sound horrible. I said, I can understand how it probably looks to you. I said, but again, not much. And he sits back in his chair. I never forget, I can see it like it was yesterday. And he says, you don't really know much about computers, do you? And so I lean into him. So remember, he goes back body language. I lean into him. I said, no. I said, but I tell you what I do know. I said, I'm a smart guy. I said, I learned, I can pick up fast. I said, and I'm amazing customer service, and I know how to sell, and I know business. I said, I do know that you need to get those electronics off your shelves and out of the store. That I can help you with. And he says, he just stared at me in silence. That's all I said. And he said, I'd never do this. And he said, the guys I hired, he said exactly what my friend said. They're guys that can take computers apart and put them back together. He said, but they cannot sell. They cannot get them off my shelves. When can you start? I said, Monday. Shook hands. Walking out the store, I see my friend in his apartment. He's like this. I said, I'll call you later. He called me and I said, God, he said, yes, you're gonna be working with me. I said, no, in like front silence. What?
Wow.
How? I said, because you fired me. Interview went great. So, you know what I mean? And here I am now in a department I wanted to making major money. And every time you look around, I'm on a ladder and pulling out a new computer, a printer, walking into the thing with them. You know, I'm learning with some most of the customers do more than me. I'm reading with them. I'm learning. And that's, that's what it takes. And so, this is what I'm saying. You have to be authentic to yourself. I went in there knowing, hey, I'm not your guy, Joey. If that's really what you want. I'm going with the mindset, you are a retailer. Your main job is to sell these products that you have in there. I have major experience in that. I know people, strong people skills, and I know I'm articulate. I can help you sell these things. I'm sure I can learn whatever it is I need to learn to help me sell it. That was my mindset. So yes, it was horrible because I didn't know any answers. And I told him, I know it's horrible, it looks horrible. But here's also what I know. And that was it. He had the right to say, well, no, I'm sorry, but he was a smart businessman. And he knew he made the right decision. And I stayed there until I got my car here because that was not my passion doing no freaking computers or whatever. So I got my car here. I put that 2 weeks notice in. Thank you very much. And I got me a job at a fashion company over in LA. And then that was it. But
Wow.
you have to do.
That is really cool. That's so interesting. I know now when I've kind of learned this over a period of time, but in everything you do, I think people really at the end of the day just need problems to be solved.
Absolutely.
And you were able to kind of identify, like, yeah, I know you're looking for someone to put computers together, but I also know, hey, I mean, you got all these things sitting here. Don't you want to make some money? Like,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
really showed like the true value and kind of answer the questions he wasn't even asking, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. And he was the head guy. He was a GM. So he was the
Oh,
head.
wow.
So I know he knows all about where the sales are at the projection. If they're on the low end, if they're where they need to be, he knew that. So I spoke his language.
Hmm. Interesting. Did you know that you were going to be speaking to the GM?
I had no clue. I didn't know who was interviewing me. I had no clue.
Hmm.
So
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And that actually brings me to a question I like to ask everybody because everyone always shares a different answer. What does professionalism mean to you?
to me, professionalism means honestly, it's ethics. That's very very important for me, and it is giving your best, and that you have a certain standard, and so for that's what because I think it's not about a job, it's not about it's whatever you're doing is having a certain standard of the way you deliver, the way you perform, and being ethical, being honest, trustworthy, those kind of things. That's to me when I think of professional, that's what's professional because at the end of the day, when people have issues, it's with someone who are not exuding that, who's not either showing ethics or they don't have a certain standard about the way that they do their work, they perform it, the way they communicate with people, whether it is their coworkers or clients, customers. Those are going to be your main two things that you're going to see people have issues with, no matter what. Someone could, you know, and to me, standards is even how you present yourself. You know what I mean? Here we are. I'm not in on a stage right now receiving an award, but I'm coming on a where I knew I'm going to be on video with you, so I'm making sure that I look great, right? Because to me, that's Kenny Henry's standard, and I want to be professional. Whether I'm on Zoom, I life coach, I want to make sure I look presentable. It's all about a standard. So that's it. That's my answer in a nutshell.
I love it.
Good.
Love that. Okay, cool. Now, you mentioned something earlier when you were working with the foster home, kind of managing that place. And it really reminds me a lot of just like the daily life as a social worker or really anyone doing something relating to kind of solving some like humanity type issue. When you're in those type of environments, do you ever kind of take a moment to kind of seek out therapy or do something a little therapeutic, like intentionally?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said because doing that, having that balance. So doing those things, like for me, songwriting, and going in there and actually singing it, vocally delivering it. That's very therapeutic. Continuing the balance of going out and dancing, very therapeutic. And so people miss there's little things that they could be doing that is very therapeutic. And then I've always been blessed to have great people in my life. I'm very picky about my circle of people that are my close friends, that are confidants, that I can be vulnerable with, I can be honest with, I can share fears with, hopes, dreams, I can trust my dreams with. So for me, that's a regular thing. And I think that if that was not a regular thing, then yeah, there would definitely be. It's very important to go and do that. Plus, a lot of my friends are therapists, and a lot of times I'm giving my therapy friends therapy, therapy, and I'm the life coach, and so, but it's just that village, and I think it's very important to have a healthy community around you. I can't stress that enough, and I stress that in every realm that I'm in. You have to be very picky about that. And nobody is perfect. Healthy just means people are trying their best. And if they do mess up something, they take ownership for it and they put their best foot forward to be healthy and and just kind of live life on a, how can I say, a more loving, a more holistic and well-rounded, foundation really. So it's all about a healthy community. And so for me, I always had it, to be honest with you.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I know my mom kind of, I mean, she has a lot of really cool sayings, but one of the things she's always said since I was little is that it takes a village.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it on your own, but when you have those people in your life, that community, that just makes your experience so much better. Like, I know my mom, she worked a lot all the time. And I just like can imagine if we didn't have that village, like some friends whose parents would just come up, pick me up from her shop and be like, yeah, you come with me. You can stay the night if you want, but coming
Exactly.
and going. So it's like I
Exactly.
get to have a great experience, and my mom could just focus on like cranking out whatever she needs to get done.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
I'm a wise woman. A village. Always have a village. And be mindful of who's in that village. And sometimes that village has to change. Sometimes some of the village members has to change. And it's just okay. You have to. I give everybody the benefit of a doubt, a chance. And if they just can't, then you have to put boundaries up and start distancing yourself. So
Hmm.
good job, mommy.
Oh yeah. Man, I know she listens to this, so she's definitely gonna be like, "Oh, what? Thank you." So and you bring up an interesting point. I wanted to ask you about that. Kind of when that village member, you realize that you know what, that might not be the best person around me. I think a lot of people have that person in their life, but it's really hard to like remove and put up those barriers. I feel like with that person.
Yeah,
What
it could
what would
be.
you recommend to somebody in that situation?
You be authentic. I mean, I can't say that enough. Be very honest because you have the right to feel how you feel, and you know that's my thing is, but try to talk to them first. Make sure you go to them, and you don't have to go out and let them know exactly how you feel about it, and give them an opportunity. And sometimes, if you're in a hurt place, because I've been there myself, where you're in a hurt place, and so you don't do that right away. You know, and so but the healthy thing is to do it right away, as soon as you can, to talk to them, give them an opportunity to fix it. And if they show you they don't want to fix it, or not, maybe even don't want to, maybe they're just not in a place right now where they feel empowered enough to do it. But you have also the power to and the right to protect yourself and distance yourself now. But the good thing is you've already brought it to them. So when you do distance, they know why you're distancing, right? They don't have to like it. And they may be unhealthy. They may go to slander you, talk about you, or do dirty dealings to you. But and it's always harder for the people you care about the most. It does seem to be the hardest breakups, shall we say, whether it's relationship or friendship, family. It's always the hardest when you care about somebody a lot and you feel that for whatever reason they don't value you or they don't care about you or wasn't what you thought, you feel more, you take it personal. And I think those are the times the most that we should be very careful about how we handle it, right? Because I know I've handled things wrong in the past myself, and but I took responsibility for that and I moved forward. Now, it doesn't mean move forward, I have to go and subject myself to them again or be back in a relationship. No, we're done with that. No more friendship, but and now as a person, I've been able to grow, and I've been able to take ownership for my area in it, and stop looking at that other person so much and just take responsibility for yourself and say, okay, you know what? And where did mine come from? You know, is that some trauma that showed itself or whatever? Like, why was I triggered to respond this way? I know I'm hurt, but was that the right way? Okay, and own that. And if there needs to be apology, apologize for that, but then move forward, and that's it. Because that's how we grow, and that's how we make sure we don't do those things again. But
Hmm. Interesting. So no ghosting anybody or leaving people on red.
I don't believe in that. I think, I mean, ghosting, if you didn't have any kind of like really tight relationship, then yeah, I mean, you don't really owe anyone anything. But I think if you have that tight relationship, and it's interesting because everyone, like I said earlier, looks from a different lens, and everyone has their own baggage that we bring, to the plate. And so, I'm also a Coro. I don't know if you know Coro's, Coro Fellow. Coro's a national leadership organization. I think it's been around like 76 years or something.
Oh
Amazing.
wow.
And I'm a fellow of those of that, and I was put in that when I was put in the Human Trafficking Leadership Academy. In there, one of the things that they taught is what's called the ladder of inference. The ladder of inference is where we all bring our baggage to a situation, and we do it all the time. And so, an example, for instance, could be, let's say you and we're on here right now, okay? So, well, we are, but you or I'm talking, and every time I talk, you're putting your head down writing, or you're turning, and there's someone else there, and you're just like talking to them. And I'm like, let's say I'm pouring my heart out, and I'm looking at this guy keeps talking to someone on the side, like, oh, so he doesn't really care about what I'm saying. He's just trying to get through his questions in this state, right? So I could look at it as you don't really care. This is just what you do because of maybe I had some past experience somewhere where uh, I was not valued, right? Or what I had to say wasn't valued. And so I started making as I climb up the ladder, with each action that you do, that's a step on the ladder. And so each action you do, I get closer and closer to forming my opinion about you. And at the top of the ladder, I make a decision of how I'm going to handle it. If I'm going to say something to you, if I'm going to disconnect from here, if I'm going to say, you know what, right, BossLocks, this guy, blah, 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 so unprofessional, or I'm going to put something on social media, that's what happens. And I don't know the real situation. You could have had just had an emergency happen this morning, and you still are trying to get through this, and you just got a phone call that someone that you really love or is in the hospital in a critical state, and you're trying to be here and there, and really trying to be with me, but you're also trying to deal with this, and you're preoccupied, right? Which I totally, if I knew the story and what was going on, I would have a completely, and I'd be maybe trying to help you, in that kind of way, instead of forming my own opinion and then taking an action. And I think that's what we as people, we really have to learn that just because something appears a certain way doesn't mean that's what it is. So, like the Four Agreements is an amazing book. And one of those Four Agreements is to agree to yourself, commit to yourself that you will not assume, make an
Mm,
assumption, right? And I love that because when you don't make an assumption, it keeps it pure, right? Even if you're doing actions, I trust whatever that person is. I'm going to have a pure heart. I'm not taking it personal, and that's another agreement is don't take things personally, And so I think when you apply those things to life, you have a much more. And sometimes, even though you may be wrong, maybe it is a personal thing they're trying to do, but you're so oblivious to it, and it doesn't rock your world at all because you're like, okay, great. You're still able to have a pure heart and be a kind, loving person, unless somebody shows their head in a negative way. Then, okay, there's no doubt in the world what's happening here, and I get to check the situation. Yeah,
man, that's cool. And I really love that ladder analogy because I think that really paints it perfectly. It is like increase in a step and a step and a step until you kind of get to that top. And usually at that point, you're just like, nah, I'm done with you. Like all these things. But the whole time you could just be assuming things,
hmm
thinking something big. Wow. So that baggage really
absolutely.
does come into play.
I try to use
What?
it often.
Mm-hmm. Do you so like when you're in these professional settings and you kind of notice that this person kind of may be kind of poisonous, you don't want them too close to you, but at the same time you realize, okay, this could be another ladder situation. It could be just misreading. something. How do you have these conversations with people?
Yeah, and I've been in those situations. So, but I think for me again, I tried not to, take it personal, and and I do. I'm the kind of guy. I am more lighthearted in nature. So I'll definitely try that approach, and it kind of takes people off guard too, because I think that a lot of times, because I do lead with lightheartedness, because that's just who I am and what I believe. But I also have a very tough side if I need to put my foot down and practice a boundary. And sometimes it can throw people, oh, well, he's not who he said it. I am who I am. I am. That's all part of me. It's just that
Hmm.
to lead with this, because this is what I prefer, love and light. I don't want to have to be in this side, but if you bring me to the side, then yes, I'm going to go here, and because it's not right, this is inappropriate or whatever. But yeah, I'll normally will make comments in a way of trying to get the person to lighten up, or like, okay, I'll try to bring a positive aspect to what they're saying, and that's a big part of my personality. You know, it's funny. I took a test before, Strength Finders. Are you familiar with Strength Finders?
Um, Not that one, but I've taken like the Myers Briggs
Yeah,
test,
right.
and
Very the same.
okay.
And so on the Strength Finder one that we did, the agency that I was with, and I think we had about 40 people. And out of all 40, I was the only one that one of my top five was futuristic. Nobody else had
Hmm.
that. So I'm looking, I'm like, wait, what the heck is this? It sounds cool, but wait, now, a little level of insecurity, because I'm like, I'm the only one out of 40 people. And everybody else, we all had, my other things matched with everyone else. Well, and so I researched it. I'm like, wow, well, I mean, that honestly, that's me. It says, futuristic person has the ability to see what others don't see, and when others see a problem, they see the solution.
Hmm.
And honestly, that's who I am as long as I can remember. And so I do that when I see people being negative and things of that nature. I try to bring that positive aspect to it, or gosh, well, now what we're going to do, and this man, this do the whole thing. I'm like, well, and I'm honestly saying what I see. Hey, this could actually be a great thing. Like COVID is very negative. People have lost their lives. We have people in my community, unfortunately, that we lost because of it. Also, though, I see with this quarantine, when everybody's like, man, we're indoors and all this stuff, that there's so much more that you could do. And I said, wow, now the people that say I don't have time to work out, you can put that into your schedule and you can work out consistently, right? I know I did. It helped me a lot. Wow, all this stuff I didn't have time because I'm traveling to go see this client for life coaching, have them right here at the house. I can do clients back to back. Oh, they
Hmm.
need more time for this. Oh, also, I get to work on this project while I'm here at home. Amazing. I'm not burning gas. I'm not doing travel time. I don't have to pay for studio time and all this stuff here. So, it's the way that you look at it, and you spend time with self. So maybe I can't physically be with as many people as I like, but guess what? I get to be the most important person now, and the noise gets to stop. I get to be with me, and I get to really deal with me, the good, bad, the ugly. What things do I need to grow in? How can I? And I made a commitment to myself, how can I come out from COVID-19 being a better version of myself? I want to commit to that. And that was my goal. And I put, and one of the ones was physical fitness. The other one was like being having that schedule and being on top of projects. And the other one was just more spiritually, grounded again. Just being, my word and meditating, feel like I'm on that right path. And that was it. So just committing to that. And I tell you, it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm. That's cool. Yeah, I know. It's Oh yeah, COVID. I always like to say this, but COVID really, I think, exposed a lot from all of the injustices out there, the inequalities. But kind of like to what you were saying, just exposes a lot to, I think, everyone personally. And it's like for the first time in a long time, we've all had to sit still without all these other distractions and excuses, and kind of sit with it, kind of look at yourself in the mirror. And it's like at first, I think like I know with me personally, I say I think at first I was like, oh, is that what I'm seeing? Is this who I am right now?
Right.
And I know for me, it's really taught me that I hadn't been investing as much in myself.
Right.
Like this podcast, for example, this is something that I started trying to figure out in college because it can start for me just trying to figure out if I can be in these interviews with Locs.
Right.
And I started having conversations, recorded ones in 2017. It's just like taken a while. It's been like a journey for specific reasons, but at the same time, I really could have started at any time. But
Hmm.
COVID kind of taught me like, yo, if you're not investing in yourself, everything else you're doing is kind of subject to other people. So
Absolutely.
um, yeah, and some of the things you mentioned are on my list as well,
Love
especially
it.
the fitness side. My uncle, he just started this challenge like 30 days ago, like whole family, 100 push-ups every day.
Yep, yep.
And that was tough, but like towards that end with that consistency as well, you really get to that point where you're just kind of knocking them out really quickly.
You condition your body. You're conditioning yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I need to actually kind of start that challenge up because afterwards I was like, yeah, I'm still doing them, but it kind of fell off again. So it's kind of that accountability.
I love it, though. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Hmm. Cool. Now, one thing I meant to ask you actually, because I didn't realize this, but you said that you started a nonprofit, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
What is that nonprofit?
So the nonprofit is TikTok, TikTok Services, and we're based out of California. And so we started, we do substance abuse one side, so I have a co-founder as well. And the other side is the anti-human trafficking. And so what we've done have currently been evolved actually because now I've been able to be one of the founder and leaders of the Compton Human Trafficking Task Force because we didn't have a task force for Compton in LA, and so we decided to get one that would focus, definitely be able to focus and on a lot everybody, but especially the Black people that were victims of trafficking and are and have it where you have a lot of people there that know the community, right? Because we were finding that most of the leadership in LA didn't really have blacks of all, and the statistics were showing that it was 65% of the reported cases were black women, so that's significant, and to not
Mm.
have the representation. So we did that, and so that was one. And then I ended up becoming a board member on another company, Restoration Diversion Services in Compton. That's a drop-in center and doing work and just building with all these different amazing entities. So I thought, well, you know what? Right now we have so many great entities that are doing this. One of my biggest passions that I feel need is the mentorship part. So that's what we've evolved into to where we're still doing awareness and education for the anti-trafficking. However, I'm focusing more on the mentorship part. So
Mm.
that's what we're doing. So we're doing substance abuse and mentorship part. Now over in Texas, we're going to be working on building another nonprofit here that we're going to specifically be an event led and specifically targeting the Black community. That's an event led, mobilizing the community, bringing people together for the sake of ending human trafficking in the Black community. And I'll also be doing the mentorship program out in Houston as well. And Code Black is the mentorship program, and it's for boys 12 to 18 years old, Black boys 12 to 18 years old. And it's all, I have 8 different modules where we talk about the first is like historical history, trauma. What is trauma? How has trauma affected us as people? How have we evolved? How is trauma still showing up? And how do we heal from that? And then I have what do you identify with? Do you identify with, African American? Do you identify with Black? What do you identify with? Why do you identify with that? And then we move down to financial literacy, where we talk about teaching them early the investments, like what is life insurance? What's the purpose of that? How does it benefit you? What is health insurance?
Wow.
And basic beginning like budgeting, stocks, beginner level. We have a special component of inspired creativity, which is all
Hmm.
about figuring out the whole entire program. What creative things do they have in them? And then we start helping them utilize that, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whether it's a form of performance or dancing or something like that. Maybe it's visual arts. What is that? And we start to align them with the right people that are already professionals in the community, other Black men, women that are doing it, and even people that are not Black that want to be involved in it and help out as an apprentice, have an apprenticeship or something. And then we also have the healthy part. So the Zen swag is about having them understand what meditation is all about. How do you meditate? What is yoga? Those kind of things. And then what does this mean? Eating your body is what we eat. So I have a thing called eating to live versus living to eat, and breaking that down. So yeah.
Hmm. Eating to live versus living to eat. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, no problem. I love it. So eating to live is where you want to live. You want to live a healthy life. You want to truly live. We say there's a lot of people that exist, but not a lot of people that are living, right? Because you could be alive and breathing, but if you're having major diabetes, diabetic, and you're having major symptoms of that, if you're having high blood pressure and you're in pain, chronic pain, arthritis, all these things here because of these decisions that you're making to eat because, oh my God, I love food. I love, or my culture has the best food, or I love this kind of food, but it's not healthy, and I constantly consume that, you are what you eat, and after a while, that's going to show up, not just physically, but also, health wise. And so you want to eat to live. So I want to learn what are those good foods? What are the things that are anti-inflammatory? What does turmeric do? What does ginger do? What is this? How do I balance these kind of things? What are the right fats, not the right fats? Okay, just because my culture eats soul food and there's all this grease or whatever, is that the best thing to put in my body? How can I tweak soul food to make it a little bit more healthy? How can I incorporate maybe some vegan veggie stuff into this and make it a little bit more healthy and not compromise the taste so that I can truly live, right? So that's
Hmm.
the versus living to eat. Well, I don't really care, man. I love food. I love food. So I like to eat. So I'm living,
Right.
right? Oh, let's eat over here. What are we having today? And we don't think about the important and responsibility of eating correctly, right?
Interesting.
That's something I had to learn coming from a Creole culture with gumbo, jambalaya, etouffees.
Right.
Trust me, and I still love those things today. And but I've learned how to, cook and cook them in a healthier way. And I just have learned to eat. I went vegan for a year and a half, like 100%.
Really
Yeah, and so now I'm just more like pescatarian. But here, every now and then, I'm not one of those hardcore people. Every now and then, I'll have some chicken. I'll have mix it in. I just try to make it a habit not to eat red meat. That's my thing.
yeah. That's really cool. And I love to hear that you're doing that, and shaping it to kind of specifically work with the Black community. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know in episode 2 and 4 of this podcast, so the second one was with Dr. Basi Bomani, and he was kind of talking about how I think a lot of times we think like to be vegan is like we have to be vegan all the
Right,
way, when in
right.
reality it's sometimes just like reducing the amount, just starting with just volume control, or maybe just implementing one healthy meal out of the day to start out with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think another thing with the veganism I think is so interesting, especially with the Black community, because I feel like for a long time, I know in my life at least, I felt as though a lot of these vegan restaurants and everything, it was okay, but I don't think anything really spoke to Black people.
Right.
And here in Atlanta, there's this place called Slutty Vegan,
Oh,
and
yeah, I've seen a documentary on them actually. I've never had the opportunity to go, but yeah.
oh yeah, when you come to Atlanta, I mean they're starting to branch out everywhere, but I highly recommend it. Like I'm a meat eater, but when you kind of take a bite, it's like, man, this is actually like a really good sandwich. Like what they put together is really good. It's its own thing. You don't need to even look at it as a replacement of burgers. It's just
Absolutely.
really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing I wanted to ask you, and then I want to get into kind of your natural hair journey. You're so one of the things you're doing with this nonprofit is working with trauma.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people have. I think sometimes people don't understand trauma in their own life, and I think that comes from like putting the walls up and not thinking about it, bottling up.
Agree. Absolutely.
Um, how do you start these conversations with people to kind of identify trauma?
Well, I think it's really, first of all, educating people on what trauma is, and then showing them. And part of educating on what it is, what I found is very effective, is showing them how does it show up in different examples of that, right? And what is post traumatic stress disorder? What is PTSD? It's not just the military. Like I grew up thinking, oh, that's just because that's all I heard. It's like, oh, they're military, so I equated that to, oh, you get that if you go to the military. No, and you get that with any traumatic experience, and you start talking about the body chemistry, And since 2015, one of the areas I've been life coaching is traumatic brain injury. So I work with a company, Brain Rehabilitation and Injury Network in Cypress, California, and been with that since 2015. And I learned so much about the brain and how that works, right? And when we have these traumatic experiences, how it changes, pathways, neurons, and you start to respond, you get triggered, and how certain things smells, a physical thing, a person that seems like someone, a sound, hearing a voice that sounds like that, and it could have been years ago, but it can trigger certain things. So teaching them what really that is, and then now people start to like, wow, I think I might have that. They start to, it resonates with a lot of folks, and they can start to understand it. So once they get a clear perspective of what it is, most people are very interested. And now they have, especially younger kids, they have questions now. Oh, could this be trauma? What about this? Because this happens here, or this happened to my cousin, or this happens to me. And so to start talking about that and getting educated on it. Because a lot of times they're not getting this stuff at home. Parents are not even educated sometime on it. So they don't know how to educate their kids on it. This is not something that's really talked about in school unless you go to college and you're studying psychology, you're studying, mental health, you know what I mean, social services.
Mhm.
So, having those deep conversations that are about wisdom, and
Mm.
I think that's kind of what I hope to bring. And for me, I think it's very important from a culture like us who have suffered so much with historical trauma, and we're still trying to heal from that trauma that has been passed down because we normalized it, and even it's in our comedy, our comedians, you're still like, yeah, it's funny, but is it the right thing? It's really not. It's funny, but it's really not funny because we are still affected in the way that we see the world in a lot of ways. I mean, even the whole beating, how we would brag, yeah, man, black mom beats you, beat you, this and that, and oh yeah, beat you, oh beat us with a shoe, beat us with a switch, oh beat us with this, and it's like, well, why is that normalized? Well, because slave masters, that's how you got the slaves in line, right?
Mm.
This is how even overseers that were made to sometimes their own people that were made overseers get them in line. And so this thing will get them in line, then I beat you because this was so ingrained in us to get you to perform and act the right way, speak the right way, do the right thing. So there wasn't really this art of, we lost what we had of this natural ability to talk. If you even look in Africa today, many of the tribes, villages, and I'm talking about modern day, still do the same stuff. When someone has done something in that community, they are putting them there, and they cause many people that knew that person, saw them growing up, to be there in front of them and sometimes walk in a circle. And all thing they're saying is each one was shouting all these amazing things about them, of their intellect, how smart they were, how trustworthy they were, how loving they were, how they did this. And this person is breaking down crying because they're so embarrassed of how they shamed the village or shamed the name because of this mistake, this bad moment they had. And but we lost that when we came and we were taught something else, and we grew, we started growing up in that, right? And so we passed that down. So it became almost this noble thing, this thing to be proud of, right? And is that healthy? To dominate your child, to beat your child? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying spoil the rod. I'm not saying because you got to tap and tap, a little bit. But it's this still thing to be. But do I want to do that, right?
Mhm.
Or do I want to get to a point where we can conversate and I can help you understand the importance of your decision, how to impact it, whether it's negative or positive, how it impacts you, how it impacts others around you, and do you want to take responsibility for that? Those, so that's just one example of why it's so important for us to really wake up, and that's what this mentorship for me is to do. And there's a part in there too of knowing your rights, how that's very important because it's speaking to, hey, let's be real with what's happening. How many videos do we see countless and countless times of someone being victimized? Let's say a person of color, or even if it's not a person of color, just someone being victimized, and they're shouting, and they know that their rights are being violated, but they don't know how to articulate that, right? And so
Mhm.
they're acting out with passion and aggression, and it leads to them being, slammed and all this stuff, and it's feeding right into those, especially the cops that has malice in their heart, feeding right into their hand. Versus when you see a video and the person is not moved at all by them and is able to say their rights, know their rights, remind the cops of their rights, right? And then you see no hands on nobody at all because the cops know who they're dealing with now, and they know
Mm.
it was on camera, right? So they know who they're dealing with, who they're not. And so this is why it's a way of not just empowering, but also equipping them to be able to handle themselves in even situations like that. Only, unfortunately, yeah, it is a great thing to know all around, but just unfortunately, still in that climate as a man of color, person of color, unfortunately, we see that we still have to make sure that's a priority for our community.
Man. That is so true. And one thing that I always look to do or keep in mind is perspectives.
Yeah,
And I personally really like to view things from multiple perspectives. And I like to bring people on the show who kind of give those different perspectives as well. So, one, I want to thank you for everything you just said. I mean, really, throughout this whole episode, you really did bring that. But even just like when it comes to disciplining the child and getting them online, and just I never ever even considered how that could have been passed down all the way from slavery.
yeah.
Um, that's very interesting. And once again, I definitely want to applaud you for what you're doing.
Oh,
Um,
you. Thank you.
yeah, it's like your work. I mean, obviously, there's nothing overnight, but
Yeah,
it's the beginnings of ending the
yeah,
tradition and generations of these negative behaviors being
absolutely.
passed down.
And I love it, bro. I'm an open book. Trust me, I'm not married to it. I'm like, if if anything I'm doing is working and healing, I want people to take it. Take it. You can do the same model. I don't care. I help you. I don't care what state you're in or whatever. Do it. As long as this is going around, we need as many of our people to feel this as possible and experience this so that we can be healed. Like, take it. You can take it and you can give yourself all the credit if that's what you want. I could care less. I'll give you as long as you're genuinely doing the work and you're helping our community move, progress and heal. I am fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess people really have to, because there are so many people out there who really need help. And
Absolutely.
like, I think one thing, you didn't straight out say it, but you basically acknowledged that when you were in LA, you kind of noticed, okay, there's a couple other people doing the same work I'm doing, but I could actually kind of narrow down and just get into this one area. And I think that's really cool because you
Right.
put all of that energy instead of focusing on doing a bunch of things, almost like a jack of all trades. You're kind of focusing on one lane, and
Yeah.
that will lead
Because
where it leads.
and that's what I was, really missing. And I'm like, well, now that I know and trust these I have these great relationships with these folks and entities that are doing this great work, then we use them to take care of this. But there's still a major gap here. We need more help in the mentor area. There's some good programs there. Love Beyond Limits is one I love out there by Malika Chris. She's out of Long Beach. There's some really good ones out there, but that area still needs a lot. It needs a lot of help, and I know what I can bring is very valuable to that. And so for me, I was like, yep, that's it. But it was a reason why, because I came into the anti-human trafficking. I got exposed and met so many type people, and I grew and learned some more as well to better prepare me now for even this next step. And that's the beautiful part about that process and just following the journey that you see God is doing. He's creating those avenues for you to go down. And so, yeah.
Very cool. Now, there's like much more I want to ask you about that, but I do want to kind of get your thoughts on natural hair. And you've had like, how long have you had locks?
2012 is when I started. Yeah,
2012.
2012. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What were some of those, like what led you to start your lock journey?
I have a very, for me, it's a very personal story. I First of all, I never ever thought I was going to have dreads. Let me just say that. I didn't desire dreads whatsoever. Inside, that wasn't never on my mind. When I moved to LA, I started letting my hair grow a little bit, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try a different look, something different. And I started letting it grow, and then started wanting to kind of curl it, right? So then I got to the point where I moved and started doing twists. And
Mhm.
so, the beautician I had was a friend I met through the church I was in, and she was great. So it was wonderful. We built a good friendship. She would do my hair consistently, and 'cause I want to keep it tight and looking right. And I am in this professional realm, so for me, it's like I want to make sure I'm already wearing natural hair. I have the responsibility to make sure my natural hair it's not just a mess looking all over the place. So I would make sure it was always tight and just looking the best natural hair as it can be. And so I remember she, after a while, started telling me, "Gosh, have you ever considered doing locks?" I said, "Oh no, no, absolutely not." I'm sitting in her chair while she's doing it, and she was, "No, Kenny, your hair, it's like you have a texture with locks very well." I said, "Oh no, no, yeah, I'm sure, but no, it's not my thing. I don't like the look, because I'm thinking of the big dreads I'm seeing on people. I don't care if it's white, black, whatever, and it's like looking a mess. I'm like, what is growing inside those things? I mean, that's how I looked at it. Let's be real." And so, like, they're just, no, I don't want that on my head. And so she said, yeah, but you can get them. different sizes. You can choose something big, small. It's really up to you. And that's because people don't take care of it. If you take care of it, and she would show me photos and she would try. And I was like, nah, maybe, yeah. So she tried again another time later. I'm still saying no. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe one day in my life. I don't know. We'll see. I said, if I don't like it, I'll cut it off. Well, unfortunately, she was in remission for cancer, and unfortunately, her cancer came back, and
Mm,
it took her really fast, and which really took us all by. I mean, it's because she's just a phenomenal woman. I mean, she really was, and a servant, and constantly serving at church, helping out too, thriving with her business. She had just got her home, just had built her beauty shop in the back part of her home. I mean, just it was everything was right, and that happened. And I remember after I was singing at her funeral, and it hit me for some reason how she always wanted me to get dreads, and then she had even told me if you get it, go to this person because she's the best at natural hair. She's not even a beautician like certified, but she's just been doing natural hair for all this time, and she is amazing. I always send clients. So I went to that person and I said, I'm going to do this out of an homage and just tribute to her. I'm going to go ahead and get locks. And you know what? Maybe I keep it for a year or 6 months or something, and I can cut them off. But I feel like I want to do that in honor of her. And so I did. And look at me. That's 2012.
mhm,
It is 2020. I fell in love with them. I still have the same lady. It was a dear, dear friend of mine. I like family now. And yeah, and so for me, it's just been a beautiful journey. I love them. I think natural hair is the best thing for Black folks. I will always say that. I'm so against putting chemicals in our hair and all that stuff that's not meant to be in our hair. I believe there is strong linkage to health issues with that stuff going that lie and all that stuff going into our hair with these perms. I believe that in our hair is healthier and it grows like it should grow when it's natural. And yeah, and I think I'm all for that movement. All for that movement.
mhm. Yeah, I know. Just with chemicals, like I think a lot of people know that it can damage the hair, but kind of what you mentioned, like the line of hair, like can lead to other things. The We interviewed Tondo Cafele, who called himself the King of Locks, and after our conversation, I really believe it. He really is. But he was mentioning how some of these chemicals can lead to like some major health issues, like cancer, breast cancer, and just all sorts of other things that maybe a doctor wouldn't even be able to at first glance connect the two, but it's like seeping into our minds, our brain, our body, just flowing through everything else.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Man, that is a really cool story and journey, and it's really cool you made that decision to I'm going to do this kind of the honor, and then that turned into a whole another type of journey. What would be if you were to give someone advice, someone who's either interested in starting their natural hair journey, whether it be locks or just going natural in general,
Mhm.
or somebody who has natural hair but is kind of feeling a little disgruntled about it, what's something that you would say to them?
Yeah, I think for first of all, I would ask, why. I think your why for anything that you go for in life needs to be very strong. You need to have a strong why because with anything there's going to be some ups and downs, some challenges. I went through the I guess you could call it ugly hair stage. Where I'm like, man, what the heck is going on? The length, whatever. I got to try to fix it and make it, And so you're going to go through those, and if you don't have a strong why, then you're going to be discouraged, and you're going to get rid of it. And so, I think that's number one. And then two is like, how much do you know about it? Get educated because one of the things I did before I went to Lazy, I watched tons of videos like, okay, how do you take care of it? What kind of products you put in it? Oh, wow, they're saying don't put products in it. How do you wash it? I went through all that to see, okay, well, I do want to do this, and because I think this is noble, this tribute. However, is it going to be realistic for me, the maintenance of it? Because
Hmm.
although this is noble and a great tribute, if I can't maintain it, then it's an unwise decision. And so I realized that it is possible and a lot more easier than what I thought initially. So yeah, so that's what I think I would date. What is your why, and then get educated on it. Get educated on it, like the different styles, the different possibilities, the maintenance that's going to require. Financially, will that make sense for you right now? Because the thing in natural, you need to take care of your hair too. You got to buy products. You have to buy some tools So there's pros and cons. So be responsible with all that and see is this the best thing for you. But I think it is. I think it's totally doable. I think it is less expensive in my opinion, and than doing perms and all that. So but I think people should do it. If you haven't done that journey before, you need to do all those things ahead of time before you just go ahead and dive into it, right? Like, and then who's going to do it for you, right? Can this be consistent? Like, I think about that now. I came here, to be in Texas for a little bit, and I'm like, oh my god, who's going to do my hair while I'm out there? Do I fly back for her to do it? And I'm like, wait, let me check and see if she can do this, right? So you have to plan it all out,
Right.
and so yeah. So my thing is, what would be what's your why? How educated are you on it? So you can see if this is realistic or not.
Nice. And last thing I like to ask people is, do you consider your locks a hairstyle or a lifestyle?
Mine's a lifestyle, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
Why is
definitely.
that?
Because I like, for me, it's like yeah, I am style. That's who I am. I mean, I have my own style. Always had it. I like fashion a lot. And yeah, I wear my hair sometimes all up in the bun. Sometimes it's all down. Sometimes it's up and down like it is today. Sometimes she'll do like a mohawk kind of like or whatever. So it's style, but to me, it's a lifestyle because there is yeah, it's a certain image that comes with that. You're perceived certain ways. I came to a client right now that I just let him see what I look like on a white guy on text yesterday. I said, oh, I thought you went to my store. He said, no. So I sent him pictures. He's like, wow, what, what? I, I mean, I'm really going crazy right now. Like honestly, like normally I'm good at this stuff. He said, but I just never. You don't sound like Like look at this picture. I never think you sound the way that you sound. I was like, really? I said, well, I can understand that. I guess. But again, because I'm expected to still in to a lot of folks have a certain demeanor, sound apparently a certain way, which I learned that lesson. I didn't know I was supposed to sound a certain way. Or I'm supposed to be into weed, have that kind of thing, which I'm not against, but I'm not into it. And so all these things here, it's a lifestyle that comes with it. And I also feel that I have a responsibility, and I'm going to tell you this, and this is very, to me, very, very serious. I feel that just like I feel as a black man, that I carry. I'm one of those people that I believe this, I believe in it, and I think I should. That I carry the community on my shoulders from the way that I treat people, how I act, how I respond to situations, and the things I do, and even how I bounce back from bad moments I might have or unfortunate circumstances or whatever. I feel the same way with the natural hair. I feel like I have a responsibility to present my natural hair in all of the beauty, as much beauty as I can, and I take it very, very serious. And I do that. I love having open dialogue about my hair with non-black folks, even some blacks that don't know. Like, I'm thinking about it, but like, how do you like it? I love having those conversations because my genuine, authentic experience. And so, yeah, and I love it. And I love what, I didn't know it meant Rasta if you're in Jamaica. Had no clue. And I just started growing my dreads, and I'm out there, and I went to Dunn River Falls, the famous cave waterfall where
Hmm.
the hike, and you're passing through the village, and everybody's Rasta. And at first, my name is Kenny, so I didn't, I never turned. And my friend's like, hey, I think they call like you. And I'm the only one that had dreads. So I'm like, yeah, Rasta. I'm like, man, he must think I look like someone else that he knows from here, right? So he said, no, I'm a tourist visiting, man, from America. Oh, Rasta. And then the guy said, hey, man, no, man, you're Rasta, man. I said, oh, okay, yeah. I said, what's up? And so I realized that, and then I started really studying the Rasta movement, and I fell in love with it
Hmm.
because that's who I am. I believe in one love. I believe in unity. I believe in peace. And I said, wow. And so I love symbolism. And so for me, dreads has now become that lifestyle for me as well. Yes, I'm still a Christian. Yes, I believe in majority all the Christian principles. However, I do believe in a lot of the Rasta principles. They align with a lot of the Christian principles about love and unity and harmony and togetherness and lifting up and building up the community and the village. And so For me, that's why I say it's a lifestyle, because it's more than just a style of my hair and how I choose to wear it today. To me, it's deeper than that.
Thank you for listening to Boss Logs, where we redefine professionalism and prove that natural hair and professionalism do coexist. Now, if you liked today's episode, please go and subscribe to our show and to make sure you never miss an episode. You can watch and listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and more by searching Boss Locks anywhere and everywhere. And if you want to learn more about today's guests and the awesome stuff they're doing, please visit our website to find links to their social media accounts, websites, and everything else they got going on. And while you're there, poke around the site and just go see what we're up to. Our site is www.bosslocks.org. That is www.bosslocks.org. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.